I've heard from many hikers that getting going after a comfy overnight at a hotel is hard to do. I can now attest to that. I dragged every minute out before checking out of the stage stop in at noon. And wanting one last tasty meal, I moved up the boardwalk to the Gathering Grounds espresso bar, where I had a nice wrap and large glass of ice cold water. Still trying to delay the inevitable, I dropped by the post office to mail a few things home, lightening my backpack by a pound or so. I see myself as somewhat of a trail purist, meaning I want to cover every mile of a marked trail and not skip any. But sometimes when you are looking a gift horse in the face, one must open the gift. A couple hikers met on trail yesterday had arranged a lift up out of Patagonia, bypassing a road walk. Ah heck, why not? Looking back towards Red Mountain with Patagonia nestled beneath it, I had skipped 3.7 miles. 3.7 miles up a dry, dusty dirt road. If I was going to break with my trail purist philosophy, this was a good stretch to skip. The 21.8 mile Temporal Gulch Passage is the fourth passage of the AZT. It leads up into the Santa Rita Mountains, and although it does not summit Mount Wrightson, which at 9,452 feet is the highest peak in the Santa Ritas, it does wind itself up and down through its gulches and canyons. The clear sky meant that it was hot, so a drying stream bed with a rivulet of water flowing through clumps of algae was a welcome rest stop. Nothing a good water filter couldn't handle. You could say that this water stop was calling out thanks to these little toads. What I think are Great Plains toads. Their trill could be heard from quite a distance. Have toad, have water. But of course, they suffered from stage fright when I tried to get them to sing for me.
Make some noise again, buddy.
Not to be outdone by some warty toads, the bovines also made their presence known today. The smooth but rather steep gulches and canyons were occasionally replaced by rocky vertical formations, giving a completely different perspective from the trail behind me. Today was probably the most water I had come across in one day so far. No complaints at all. With today's very late start, and despite a hitch a few miles up the trail, 7 miles were covered heading up the slopes of Mount Wrightson. On a particularly steep section of the rocky road the trail followed, a rare flat spot was deemed to be the best place to pitch for the night. The rest of the steep incline could be conquered tomorrow. It seems that the local cows also enjoyed this small piece of flatness, as it was covered by many, mostly dry, cow patties. Another good use for hiking poles is as a cow patty flipper. Another obstacle to deal with was these incredibly sharp, spiky plants. Not only sharp, but the stalks were very rigid, so it was somewhat like a Tetris puzzle trying to fit my tent into the available spaces between these organic skewers. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button below and also click to share it. Each week I will be posting a new video on YouTube showing my next steps along the Arizona Trail. So click the bell below to be notified when a new video is posted. Gargantuan would be a good word to describe the climb that started this day. 1,400 feet over 2.8 miles doesn't sound too bad, but holy guacamole, Batman, that will get your blood pumping in the morning with the hot Arizona sun beating down on you as you climb a southern slope. The up arrow next to Trail 136 saddle notation on the AZT sign was a good indication of what was still to come. Steep, steep trail. Although it was only 1 mile to the saddle, with the southern slope being baked by the sun, it would be a hot, long climb, with more than a couple short rest stops needed to catch my breath. Apparently, the ascent over that mile up to the saddle was only 865 vertical feet. But I call their bluff. It sure felt like much more. But as usual, the views after a tough ascent make the effort quickly disappear. What goes up must come down. In this case, what goes up a steep slope is able to enjoy a gentle descent of 1,400 feet, but over 12 mostly shaded miles. This allowed for some very nice views of Mount Wrightson. How such a bright green lichen covers such a large yet isolated expanse of rock, I have no idea, but it is sure beautiful. To me, from this angle, the green on the rock formation highlights the face of Papa Smurf, except the red hat and beard are the green lichen. Do you see it? In the heat of the day, I took a short siesta along the creek running through Casablanca Canyon. When you are tired, the babbling of the water over the rocks can quickly lull you into a sleep. When one opens one's eyes after a quick catnap staring up the trunk of a tall tree, it takes a minute or two to remember what planet you are on, let alone where you are on the trail. As the trail circumnavigates Ditch Mountain, the eye catches some pretty neat sights, be it the scraggly branches of a dead tree or bugs. This little guy resembles a velvet ant.
Where are you going? You got a hot date tonight? Moving with the mission you are.
But it is not really an ant at all. It is a species of wasp. The females are wingless and can deliver an excruciating sting, which helps explain another name for them, cow killer. This little fella is a greater short-horned lizard, often called horny-toed lizards. This species is the most widely distributed lizard in North America, including north into Saskatchewan and Alberta, where they are considered endangered. Having followed the steep-walled Casablanca Canyon for a few miles, the trail suddenly pops out to view an expanse of hills with another Sky Island mountain in the distance. Recall in an earlier episode where I stated Arizona was nothing but rock. The green lichen was so bright that you could see it from a fair distance away. From a distance, these rock formations looked as if they were the remains of a crumbling ancient wall system. Though the natural landscape ages gracefully, the same cannot be said for the more recent man-made things. Starting back around Bear Spring, through to Kentucky Camp, the trail follows the remains of a 115-year-old water system that was built to carry water to a gold mining operation. In 1904, the Santa Rita Water and Mining Company built an 8-mile-long water system to bring abundant water out of the high mountain area down to a series of dry gulches, where the water was shot at high pressure against the bone-dry hillsides, a process known as hydraulic mining. The water collected behind a dam built 10 feet high and 100 feet long before beginning the much more technical portions of the water system. As the water didn't naturally flow directly to the gold deposits, the 8-mile water system consisted of 5 miles of ditches built 6 feet wide and 3 miles of 24-inch metal pipe. The metal piping was needed to move the water across a valley. By dropping over 200 feet and then ascending back up only 160 feet, the natural water pressure replaced the need for pumps. Here are the remains of an entrance to a section of the piping system. The metal piping was also used to bridge hard bedrock sections. Gold mining in the area predated this constructed water system by 30 years. The scarcity of water where the pay dirt gold deposits existed required either the dirt to be carried by hand or burro to a well or spring, or Sometimes burros were used to carry the water in large sacks to the pay dirt. As the sun began to dip lower in the west, long shadows hiked along with me. Eventually the shadows disappeared into the trail side as the sun set below the mountains and allowed Mount Wrightson to become a stark backdrop to the glistening sky. As evening settled in, the trail crossed into the fifth passage, the 13.8-mile Santa Rita Mountains section. Though the sun set, with the destination of Kentucky Camp still 2 miles away, the trail ahead looked reasonably level as it transited through Fish Canyon. So, with a little illumination from the moon, my dim headlamp led the rest of the way. First night hike in the AZT. Just pushing on a couple more miles to the Kentucky camp. Over there. There's the lights up Tucson. Got my headlamp on, leading the way. Long day, but much cooler at night. Talk to you later. Join the Ambler Odysseys on the Arizona Trail next week to learn more about the history of the gold mining operation at Kentucky Camp. And the trail comes closer to civilization and crossing under Interstate 10. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to follow the Ambler Odysseys with Bill England. You can also follow along on my website, www.theamblerodysseys.info, and on the Ambler Odysseys social media channels.